Welcome to War Room Impeachment, Wednesday, January 15th, the year of our Lord 2020, evening special, broadcasting live from the historic Breitbart Embassy here on Capitol Hill, just yards away from where Nancy Pelosi stood this morning, and again went on a ramble. I'm going to play the ramble very shortly about sending the articles of impeachment to the Senate. Any moment now, Nancy Pelosi is expected to stand up again in front of a plethora of American flags and walk those articles of impeachment over to the U.S. Senate. An historic day, whether we like it or not. The House, under Nancy Pelosi's stewardship, has decided in its great wisdom to attempt not just to impeach, but now attempt to remove the democratically elected president of the United States. This is episode 115. We are on the John Fredericks Radio Network, the Salem Broadcast Network, Newsmax TV, America's Voice.news, and of course you can catch us on all the podcast platforms: Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud. We're on YouTube. Clips go up at our Twitter account, War Room 2020, which I know is getting a lot of heat lately as well. So we thank everybody who's following, paying attention. The next week is going to be, I believe they say, lit. Speaking of lit, my guests in studio today are Harlan Hill, author, and newly minted author, yes, I should say, and Trump 2020 Advisory Board Committee Advisor Member. Is that the right title?
That sounds right.
That sounds right. Enough. Terry Schilling, the Executive Director of the American Principles Project. Much more serious, of course, so we'll give you your real title.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us here in the War Room. Wanted to have you guys on for a while. I know the audience probably knows you and loves you from my Twitter feed and my Instagram, but we have an important job to do today before getting lit. If of course it's dry January, so there's no lit for me. I'm just going to say lit now as much as possible through this show, just to show my boomerism here. We have. I'm getting death glares here from Vish the producer. He's like, dude, drop it. Okay, boomer, drop it. The Democrat debate last night. We didn't talk about it this morning much on the show because I wanted to save it for this panel here. There was a lot to unpack, but a lot that was effectively incredibly boring. We're going to steer clear of all the boredom on this show and hit only the things that need to be hit. I want to start with Tom Steyer. I'm going to bring Tom Steyer in on this conversation here. Let's hear what Tom Steyer had to say last night.
Democrats are going to destroy the economy in 15 minutes if they get in control.
Wow. Democrats are going to destroy the economy in 15 minutes if they get control. That's a clip that was from the debates last night. That's a clip that President Trump tweeted out today. I'm told, at least Tom Steyer's camp says, that that's not what he meant to say, or he was taken out of context, or the mic was too low at some point. All right. 30,000-foot view of all this stuff first. Harlan, to you. You're a former Democrat, right? You have campaigned shoulder to shoulder with this ilk, these types. You're going to tell us a little bit about your background as well. How embarrassed were you for your former colleagues last night?
Well, I think it undermines, or I think that it outlines sort of this great decline in the Democratic Party. I mean, they used to have this bench as recently as 2008 of really solid candidates. And we've seen now, this is the second presidential cycle, 2016 was the other, where it's abysmal. There's very few people to pick from. And I think that that's because...
when you say, hold on, very few or none?
Well,
no, tell me who are the serious candidates.
The closest that we have, I think, is Bernie Sanders. At least he's got ideas. We may think they're bad ideas, but at least he's got a point of view. And
but Elizabeth Warren cribs all his stuff anyway, right? She'd be the plagiarist in chief if she ever won. So she's got ideas. They just happen not to be hers.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And I think that the reason for this is twofold. One, I think that people thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win in 2016, and so the Democratic Party did very little to cultivate the next generation of talent because they thought that she was the one, and so they were caught flat-footed. And then I think it's also that there's this internal battle, there's a civil war within the Democratic Party that is now, it's a decade in the making, trying to define where the party goes forward, and neither side's really won.
Were they caught flat-footed, Terry, by the Clinton? You know, they thought she was going to be the one. They thought she'd be president for 8 years, so they didn't bring up any other talent. Or did she dominate the party so much? Did she control the apparatus with such an iron fist that even if they wanted to, she would crush any level of dissent from within? Would AOC have come up in a Hillary Clinton-dominated Democrat party?
Absolutely not. I mean, the Clintons, especially how Hillary Clinton has operated over the last several decades, they do rule with an iron fist, and you're either in the club or you're not. They don't tolerate dissent, and no, there is no AOC, there's no Rashida Tlaib, there's no Ayanna Pressley, there's none. The squad is eliminated with a Hillary Clinton as president. Of course, they didn't plan it this way, but this was something that was brewing for years, and it's because the Democrats have taken very irresponsible positions over the last several years, and Hillary Clinton, in a way, helped create that. Right? They started with the Clintons were always the great moderators of the Democratic Party, and they stopped doing that. Like in the 90s, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, they came up with the phrase "safe, legal, and rare" when it comes to abortion, and for years that was the mantra of the Democratic Party. Well, they as the Democratic Party got more extreme, Hillary Clinton stopped trying to clamp that down and stopped trying to control it and started going along. And then they ended up changing their platform to be just safe and legal. And now their platform is just legal.
Well, it's not safe, legal, and rare. It's safe, legal, and everywhere.
Exactly, and available at Walmart.
I think this was inevitable. I think the rise of figures like AOC was inevitable. I mean, we saw with Bernie Sanders this civil war in 2016. Whether Hillary Clinton had won or not, there was going to be a fight to move the Democratic Party further to the left.
The Corbynization.
No question. Absolutely. So this isn't, I mean, I do think this was inevitable. We may not have had AOC, but it would have been someone like her.
I think it would have been a slower boil, though, because
Maybe.
I think that had Hillary been elected president, the Democrats would not be as hungry as they are now. I think that President Trump, by taking office, has inspired a lot of radical left-wingers to rise up, and they basically blamed the loss in 2016 on moderate candidates like Hillary and her squashing, Bernie Sanders through that primary process, and that did exacerbate it. But I do think you're right. It was eventually going to go to a totally socialist party, but a more slow boil. But Trump getting elected really sped that process up.
Trump's election had the same effect on the Democratic Party that Obama's election had on the Republican Party with the rise of the Tea Party and eventually the Trump and MAGA movement.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So what, if anything, stood out last night? Harlan, you first, then Terry.
Yeah, well, for one, I think Tom Steyer...
I know I made you watch it.
Yeah, yes, he did. He checked in, actually, midway through the debate to make sure. Tom Steyer should have embraced that rare moment of candor and honesty by saying...
you know what? All right, just to describe the scenes on Capitol Hill right now real quick, and I'm going to break in with some breaking news, as I am wont to do. The articles appear to be on a table in the Capitol. Photographers crowded around that table, I guess, taking pictures of what is due to be delivered. And there's a hashtag in front of the table. I think it reads "Defend Our Democracy." You can always count on the Democrats to turn a historic moment into a gauche display of their political and partisan ramblings. And speaking of ramblings, I wanna just, before I come back to that question about what stood out last night, because there's impeachment stuff, this is war room impeachment, because there's impeachment stuff breaking right now, I want to play for you guys this clip real quick of Nancy Pelosi this morning. I want to get your take on whether or not you think that she's cracking, or whether this is the master political strategist at work.
It's a very important day for us. And as you know, I reference temporal markers that our founders and our poets and others have used over time to place us in time, to emphasize the importance of time, because everything is about time. How we use it, how we mark it. And today is an important day, because today is the day that we name the managers, we go to the floor to pass the resolution to transmit the articles of impeachment to the Senate, and later in the day, when we have our engrossment, that we march those articles of impeachment to the United States Senate. As I've said, it's always been our founders, when they started, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary, when Abraham Lincoln 77 years ago Thomas Paine, these are the times that try men's souls, the times that found us. Again and again, even our poets, Longfellow. Remember, listen, my children, and you will hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere on the 18th of April in 75. Hardly a man is now alive that remembers that famous day and year. It's always about marking history using time. On December 18th, the House of Representatives impeached the President of the United States. An impeachment that will last forever.
Listen, guys, I don't know about you, but that didn't sound like a master political strategist. It didn't sound like a great orator. It didn't even sound like somebody who has their S together, right? She was rambling. She was not clear about what she wanted to get up there and say. She said it herself. She gets up there and she goes, this is a major historic event. And she doesn't have a speech ready to go. She goes, Paul Revere, Longfellow said when in the course of human history, what is that? The Benjamin Franklin Republic? What was that? Anybody hazard a guess?
I typically don't like when people question a leader's competence. I think that's been abused with Trump by Democrats, but this is someone that is pretty advanced in her years, and she's slurring her words regularly. She can't form a coherent thought, and it gives me pause. Like, is she well?
Because she's not been like that before. She's been somebody who's been able to say things, to get a sentence out. And this happened last night with Joe Biden as well, and we'll get to that later on. Terry.
I just want to say, I don't think it has anything to do with her slurring her words or how she's speaking. I'm more concerned at the potential breakdown that she might have had, that she's all of a sudden talking about how much she loves the Constitution and the American founding. I mean, what is going on? They've lost their minds. I've never seen Democrats talk so highly about our founding fathers ever before.
Okay, she's up there at the podium right now. We'll go to her live as she. We'll try and go to her live. I'll say as she delivers her speech. But she named her impeachment managers today. Not many surprises: Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler, Zoe Lofgren, Hakeem Jeffries, Val Demings, Jason Crow, Sylvia Garcia. Not many surprises in there. But 6 out of 7 of those impeachment managers had declared themselves in favor of impeaching the president of the United States before any of this Ukraine stuff came along, before the whistleblower complaint. Does that undermine their claims to this whole impeachment process?
I don't really think any of it matters. This is all for show. For some reason, they think that this is. Are you going to take her?
We'll go.
Oh, okay.
For some Harlan Hill here, baby. Come on. This is the money shot.
I hear you. So for some reason, I think that they believe that this is going to advance their cause in 2020. But this is a retread of the impeachment process in the House, and it didn't convince very many Americans when you look at the polling. I mean, the president's standing has improved. So
let's go over to Nervous Nancy. Let's see if we can take Nervous Nancy live from Capitol Hill, giving a speech now in front of the flags.
The integrity of our elections has taken us to this place. So today, we will make history. When the managers walk down the hall, they will cross a threshold in history, delivering articles of impeachment against the President of the United States for abuse of power.
That's a CNN feed dropping, not us, FYI. We'll come back to that when we can. Harlan, conclude your thought.
Well, yeah, I mean, these are not compelling figures that have demonstrated an ability to convince the American people that this is an exercise worthwhile, particularly in an election year. That
it's an exercise in defense of the Republic is what they're saying. But as Terry points out, and Terry, jump in here, these are people who couldn't give 2 hoots about the Constitution not but 5 minutes ago, and now they want to be taken seriously.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, these are the Democrats that have been saying that our country was founded by rich white men who only wanted to oppress people of color and women. That's what they wanted to do. And now all of a sudden those rich white men are now the most noble people, and they came up with the best system ever to keep people like Donald Trump out of office and to keep them in check. It's just such a joke.
She quoted Paul Revere, and she didn't quote any Maya Angelou or anything. What's going on there?
No, I mean, we know where she's at. This is just manipulation. It's typical doublespeak from the Democrats. They can't tell the truth if they wanted to.
I'm going to try and get back to Nancy Pelosi here on Capitol Hill. Doesn't look like CNN's audio is working at the moment. We're going to try keep trying to bring you that, but we've got the guys in the war room watching and listening. We'll bring you any breaking news, anything different that Nancy Pelosi says than she did this morning in that rambling speech. I want to turn back now to the Democrat debate from last night. Gentlemen, the big fireworks that we were supposed to expect last night were between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Okay, let's set the stage. Elizabeth Warren's camp effectively accuses Bernie Sanders of saying that a woman can't be president in a private meeting back in 2018. First things first, gentlemen. Sorry, I didn't mean to assume your genders. People, is it likely that Bernie Sanders said this to Elizabeth Warren in private, Harlan?
I don't think that he said that a woman couldn't be president. I think that maybe she took something out of context. I'm not even sure what his motive would be in bringing that to Elizabeth Warren.
Terry?
It seems outrageous.
No, look, Bernie had a great response last night, which is that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 3 million votes. There's no, I don't think he said it. And let's be clear. We're dealing with Liz Warren, who does not have a history of always telling the truth, especially.
Wait, what's she lied about?
Oh, I don't know. But anyway,
this is a woman, by the way, who wrote this book in I think it was early 2000s, The Two-Income Trap, and then went back and changed parts of the book because she no longer agreed with herself from back then because it didn't fit in with the progressive mantra, the narrative anymore. Correct?
Yeah, no, that's exactly correct. And that's actually something that I thought was missing from the Democrat debate last night, was there was no talk about alleviating the economic burdens of families, right? So you have Liz Warren on stage, who wrote a book with her daughter in the 90s about the two-income trap, this notion that both parents today are forced to work. They can't afford to work, but they also can't afford to quit. And there was no one on that stage who offered a plan that would get back to an economy of real progress.
Hold on. Joe Biden said that we'll put more money into government schools and government after-school programs to let government raise your kids for longer, and we'll force women back into the workplace. You're saying that's not a pro-family policy?
No, it's actually very harmful. It exacerbates this problem where both parents have to work. Look, this is not going to be easy. Getting back to an economy where one parent has the choice and the option to stay home, it's going to take a massive revamping of our economy and our tax code and all of that. We can start small, and there's little steps we can take in the meantime, but this is a big conversation that we need to have. And the fact that not one Democrat, including the author of the two-income trap, they didn't mention anything about how to alleviate that, only how to exacerbate that problem.
Gosh, if only there was a think tank or something in the Washington, D.C. area that looked at this stuff. Do you know of any?
We need like an NRA for the family.
Yeah, somewhere, like a Project for American Principles. We could call it PAP.
Or an American Principles Project.
I like it. Terry Schilling is the executive director of the American Principles Project. Terry, tell people where they can find out about APP.
It's very simple. It's just AmericanPrinciplesProject.org. We are the only pro-family group that's involved in direct electoral politics. So we run campaign ads against the anti-family guys, and we run them in support of the pro-family guys. It's very simple.
I want to play a clip from last night and get Harlan's take on it.
Anybody knows me knows that it's incomprehensible that I would think that a woman could not be president of the United States.
Bernie is my friend, and I am not here to try to fight with Bernie. But look, this question about whether or not a woman can be president has been raised, and it's time for us to attack it. Look at the men on this stage. Collectively, they have lost 10 elections. The only people on this stage who have won every single election that they've been in are the women, Amy and me.
I defeated an incumbent Republican running for Congress.
When?
1990. That's how I won, beat a Republican congressman. Number two.
That's a tough moment for Bernie right there. 30 years ago, I beat a Republican. What do you think of these two? Is there a theory, just a tinfoil hat theory, by the way, guys, that this whole thing is confected, that this fight between the two is confected, so that they can dominate the messaging environment within that debate?
Possibly, but what I really think it's about is that Warren has collapsed in the polls in the early states. In Nevada, she's fallen 8 points.
like
It's not even close. In Iowa, when the caucuses are almost here, she's collapsed there as well. So this is about her team trying to gin up some excitement and focus the attention on her, whereas she would have been an afterthought as she's been in all the other recent debates.
Yeah, I think that this whole Warren scandal is totally concocted. And to go back to what she said about the men on the stage having lost a combined 10 races, it's really disingenuous for a Democratic senator from Massachusetts who beat Scott Brown, who won a special election in 2010.
Right.
He took over the Ted Kennedy seat. So she really doesn't have a track record. Biden, you're going to say Biden has been an electoral disaster? Come on, he's been in the Senate for how long?
Yeah.
Hyper cringe moment live, by the way. Nancy Pelosi giving away commemorative pens of her she's signing the articles of impeachment and giving commemorative pens away. Not really the somber moment we expected or that we told that it was on Capitol Hill. I want to get to this other clip as well. Just before we go to a break, I want to tee up what Van Jones, not exactly a frothing at the mouth right winger, had to say about last night's debate. Have a listen.
But that was, as a progressive, to see those two have that level of vitriol was very dispiriting. And I want to say that tonight, for me, was dispiriting. Democrats going to have to do better than what we saw tonight. There was nothing I saw tonight that would be able to take Donald Trump out, and I want to see a Democrat in the White House as soon as possible. There was nothing tonight that, if you're looking at this thing, you say any of these people are prepared for what Donald Trump is going to do to us, and to see further division tonight is very dispiriting. But that was...
Harlan, was Van Jones right?
I think he's absolutely right. The Democratic Party used to be the party of the working class, and they should have been, that's what they should return to. They think that the answer to that problem, the answer to solving the problems in the middle class and the working class, are government control, returning power to Washington, these big programs like socialized medicine, and more trade deals that are going to disadvantage the working class. So their policies are totally wrong. And instead of focusing on this bad policy, they need to redefine what the Democratic Party is going to be going forward. It's not just a candidate problem; it's a policy problem.
Okay, when we come back on War Room Impeachment, episode 115, going to dive more into the Democratic debate, more on the breaking news today, the impeachment managers named by Nancy Pelosi. I'm going to ask these two DC insiders what they think, how they think the Republicans should be handling this process. And by the way, in the break, why don't you go check out warroom.org. We have an exclusive op-ed up by Mayor Rudy Giuliani. We'll be right back.
War Room, Impeachment, Bannon, Miller, Kassam. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Impeachment, episode 115, Wednesday, January 15th, 2020. Another historic day here on Capitol Hill. I'm Raheem Kassam. Stephen K. Bannon is on assignment up in New York City at the moment. He's on CNBC's Squawk Box this morning. You can check out that interview about the new China trade deal at warroom.org. Everything up there, and Jason Miller also giving him the afternoon off. Jason will be back with us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for another episode of War Room Impeachment, and we'll have a lot to discuss as Nancy Pelosi currently walking the impeachment articles over to the U.S. Senate, having appointed her 7 impeachment managers just this morning. Joining me in studio, newly minted author Harlan Hill, the head of the Logan Circle Group and the Trump 2020 Campaign Advisory Board Committee member style geezer, and executive director of the American Principles Project, Terry Schilling, joining us here as well. Terry, it's radio mostly, so just doing the salute doesn't quite. You have to talk.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really am so excited to be here.
We're super excited about you being here, Terry. You see it in my face. Okay, more on the Democrat debate. Just want to recap a few things as well. Lev Parnas, the former associate of Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
Never heard of him.
Which one?
Les Parnas.
Okay. Will be on Rachel Maddow tonight at 9 p.m. This was the Democrats' last roll of the dice from the House side before the articles were pushed towards the Senate. They dropped these 58 documents last night, live during War Room Impeachment, I'll have you know. I think they did that on purpose, trying to keep us on our toes. I think if you go back and listen to yesterday's show, we handled them quite well, if I do say so myself. But that dropped on us live yesterday during the show. We got a chance to go go over them over the evening. Listen, there was nothing else better to do yesterday evening. The Democrat debate was certainly not riveting enough to keep me entertained. Went through these documents, realized over the course of having slept on it and in the cold light of the morning, there's actually nothing or not much there. There's a couple of scans of some pieces of paper that Lev Parnas had written on, scrawled on from some hotel, the Ritz-Carlton, I think, in Vienna. He had written some things down that, I'm going to work my magic in DC, very sort of self-congratulatory stuff, Lev Parnas on Lev Parnas type stuff, and some text messages that showed that he was trying to push out messages that would benefit him to some losers who hang out in Washington, D.C. hotel lobbies. You wouldn't know anything about that, Harlan, would you?
Well, I'll just say it's not a prerequisite that there's anything bad in these documents that have been released for Democrats to find something, take it out of context completely, and try to weaponize it against Republicans. So I'm excited, actually, to see what sort of mental gymnastics Rachel Maddow goes through today to weaponize this against Rudy and the president.
On. I mean, look, the New York Times and the Associated Press dropped this story about this cyber hacking campaign by the Russian GRU on this on Burisma, right? To take Burisma off the table and say you can't call Hunter Biden as a witness in the impeachment thing because the Russians are hacking Burisma, and that makes Burisma a victim. And therefore, if you want to interrogate Burisma, which by the way is one of the most corrupt countries in the entirety of Europe, and maybe in the entire Western world, if you want to interrogate what's going down at Burisma, that means you're doing the Russian government's bidding. That's the spin, right? That's Rachel Maddow spin from 2 nights ago on MSNBC. You're telling me that Rachel Maddow won't interrogate Lev Parnas and say, actually, hey, you know what? You're probably not a reliable witness. You're probably not a reliable person that we can take the testimony of. This is a guy whose sole purpose appears to be having his dinner name card, his place card, taken a picture of next to the president's, right, and then putting that out on his Instagram feed. You telling me that Rachel Maddow isn't going to try and bench press this guy?
Rachel Maddow, because I'm looking at a picture of them after the interview, it was glowing.
Uh-oh.
She's all excited to be taking a picture with Lev, and
show the camera. Show the camera right there. This one right in front of me. This we'll get this up on the site actually. In the maybe you can't see it. This is live radio, guys.
Yeah, I'm not
Lev Parnas and Rachel Maddow, right? You wouldn't have thought that maybe 2 months ago, when Lev Parnas was still kind of on the fence, when Lev Parnas was still kind of kicking it around, thinking, hey, do I sell out to the deep state, try and maybe cut myself a nice little plea bargain here or whatever he's getting from the Southern District of Manhattan. Terry, you never heard of Lev Parnas?
Never heard of him.
Right?
Never heard of him.
Had you? By the way, this is an interesting question because Terry is family policy in DC, right? So you don't deal with the day-to-day politics, like the dirty politics side of things, right? So this impeachment process to you, and I specifically wanted to have you on the show to talk about the Dem debate and how they failed to raise family policy, and we'll get to that in a moment. But for you, when you hear like Lev Parnas, Fiona Hill, Sondland, Vindman, all these things, well, I mean, what does it say to you? Because you're probably the closest thing that we have in this room to kind of the ordinary voter, right?
Well, they've put out so many different names that it's hard to keep track. It's really hard to keep track of the overall narrative. And I've had to dig deep, and I've been asked to come on and speak about some of these issues on Fox News. But it once you start tracing it back, and I listen to the War Room, and I listen to what Rush Limbaugh is saying and all this, it's hard to piece together. And there's just so many names that are floated out there. But I think, the average American hears, oh, Lev Parnas. They don't know who he is. Right. But one thing that
also,
I think...
what is they say former Rudy Giuliani associate Lev Parnas. What does that even mean? Right?
And how does it relate to President Trump?
Right.
Everything is so unrelated to the main guy.
Why is it all third and fourth party sourcing? Why is it always 2 or 3 steps removed? Why, if you had a whistleblower complaint, this guy, right, he who shall not be named, who works for the CIA, he goes and gives the Inspector General the complaint that goes to Adam Schiff and Adam Schiff's crew in the House, but nobody on the call is saying, hey, there was a bribery and extortion and things like that. It's always several steps removed. And what people often forget, this all started with the whistleblower, right? The whistleblower had to get his info from someone. He wasn't on the call. So it's 2 degrees of separation at least in that process. And this is what Nancy Pelosi is walking a series of articles of impeachment over to the Senate as we speak about.
A really bad game of telephone. That's what this is. That's what this impeachment thing is. It's a really bad game of telephone, except it's being weaponized by the Democrats. If you get back to the heart of this, right? Trump weaponizing our foreign policy to go after political opponents. Well, Democrats were just fine weaponizing the Department of Justice. We found out from the Inspector General's report. They were just fine weaponizing the IRS to go after conservative groups. So why all of a sudden now, even if this all was true, which I don't think it is.
They were just fine giving Russia, hey, we're going to have more flexibility after the election. Hey, look, what was going down in Libya, what was going on in training the Islamist groups in North Africa, what was going on in the pallets of cash being delivered to Iran. They were weaponizing foreign policy all over the place, right? And by the way, I'm not a believer that President Trump did weaponize U.S. foreign policy here. I think President Trump said during that perfect phone call, he said, do us a favor. Not do me a favor. He said, do us a favor. A day. Remember, it was a day after Bob Mueller sat up on Capitol Hill and said what he said about Russian interference. Trump has the newly elected president of a border country of Russia's on the phone, and he says, hey, look into this stuff, would you? Hold on. Before the whistleblower complaint, the Democrats were lambasting the president, saying he's not looking into this, he's not taking Mueller seriously, he's not taking the intelligence community seriously. He gets on the phone with the president of Ukraine, he says, hey, do us a favor and look into this, would you? Suddenly, oh no, you can't do that. You don't want to be looking into all of that. Huh?
Well, no. So let's play devil's advocate for a second. Let's say the entire Democratic narrative is accurate. That Trump tried to threaten foreign aid to Ukraine to get an investigation of Joe Biden, and that it didn't work, and now he should be impeached for it. And, by the way...
It's a funeral procession going on here, by the way.
It's so sad.
The televisions are on in the war room. We've got CNN on. They're marching funeral-esque the articles of impeachment over to the Senate. Harlan, you can see the TVs better than I can. Just give the audience a feel for what's going on here.
It's a bunch of very sad-looking old people, and they know that these articles of impeachment are going to die in the Senate.
They're pallbearers.
Yes, they are. These articles of impeachment are going to die in the Senate, and my major takeaway from this entire process is that the American people are totally exhausted by the bad actors in the Democratic Party that have been seeking since inauguration, since before Election Day, to come up with an excuse to undermine this president.
Terry, I'm sorry to step on your point there. You were.
Well, no. So let's just say that President Trump did do all the things that the Democrats are accusing him of. And let's just say that the Russians did hack Burisma. So now the Russians actually have more intelligence and more information at their disposal than the United States does, because we never got this investigation going. Now they have information on Joe Biden that they'll be able to use against him if he's ever elected into office. This is the thing, is that with all the cyber attacks and all of that and the hacking, there's no more secret information. We should just do these investigations and get it out of the way in the first place. There's nothing that's going to be hidden, and this stuff's going to be now used against Joe Biden.
You're saying, let me get this clear, you're saying that by starting this impeachment process, firstly the whistleblower, right? By whistleblowing, and he wasn't whistleblowing, right? He was tattletaling on something that didn't even happen.
Something he heard happen.
Yeah, something somebody told him might have happened somewhere. Probably Rob Hyde was involved at some point, right? Listen, the whistleblower makes this complaint, and effectively it starts a chain of events in motion that effectively stops the president of Ukraine and therefore the president of the United States understanding the corruption that was taking place in Burisma, in the heart of one of the most corrupt institutions in Europe, right? And that has allowed the Russians the latitude to go in there and figure it out before Western intelligence can.
Exactly. Now the Russians have that information, and they know all the details of anything shady, probably even more than what we originally thought had gone on. And now, not only that, but the Chinese probably have it. It's a huge mess.
What are we going to do as a society? If this is the new way we operate in Washington, anytime you have a president that's elected that you don't like, what does this mean? I mean, this is dire. It's going to escalate.
It has.
You think
to.
every president now gets impeached for something or the other?
I think so. I think this is the new norm.
Well, let's be clear though.
Well, hold on. Isn't it weird that 66% of all impeachments that this country has gone through now are because of Hillary Clinton's inadequacies?
Oh my God.
Good point. That's a hot take.
Yeah. Just saying.
I mean, I don't think. Look, this is the problem: is Republicans and conservatives they don't do this stuff, right? Like they always lack the political fortitude compared to the Democrats. So I do think though that let's imagine for a second that Trump did get removed, that this was all successful.
Mm-hmm.
There would be a riot. I mean, not just a riot, but I think there'd be a revolution.
Whoa!
Bad.
You're starting to sound like Kyle Jurek now, the senior Bernie bro.
Never heard of him. Oh no, I did hear about him recently.
Yeah, you did. It was on the National Pulse.
No, I'm not threatening though.
publication.
I'm not threatening. But this is to remove Trump on all of this hearsay and all this garbage. People would feel rightfully that this was stolen from them. And the stakes are so high, right? Over the last 50, 60 years, so much power has been concentrated into Washington, D.C., which is why we're seeing this, right? So if you really want to get the two parties working together again and you want to get rid of all this impeachment garbage, we really need to decentralize D.C.
You're saying we shouldn't concentrate power in one of the most corrupt places, morally bankrupt places in the country? Is that your suggestion?
Yeah.
It's a good one. I get it.
Yeah.
Harlan, you look like you had something on your mind.
Well, the real victim, if that were to happen, that would be the end of the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. I mean, the real revolution would be within this party, and the voters.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, if Republicans
Romney's out.
Oh, if Republicans moved to remove a Republican president who's done nothing wrong from office, the party will explode. I mean, I can't even imagine how.
Now you're sounding like Kyle Jurek. What is going on here, guys?
I'm not even saying that there would necessarily be revolution in the country, but
you got Harlan Hill manning the barricades, right?
What happened? So what happened in 2016
Le déplorable.
in Philly at the DNC convention when Sanders got screwed over by Hillary Clinton? It would be that on steroids in the next RNC convention.
Yeah.
It would be cataclysmic.
Well, let me just ask you the question, Harlan, while I've got you all riled up. Yeah. Kyle Jurek, right? This guy, for people that don't know, Project Veritas, James O'Keefe's amazing outfit, drops this video, multiple videos yesterday, of this senior Bernie Sanders field organizer. Now, they're all saying field organizers aren't senior. Hello, he's the field organizer for Iowa, the number one thing that Bernie Sanders is probably going to win. You don't put a junior person in that position. Terry, you know campaigns better than anyone in here. You don't do that, right? That's a senior person. Yes, Kyle Jurek.
Especially in Iowa. I mean, I'm from the Quad Cities, which is part of Iowa.
This guy says we're going to put people in gulags. He says we're going to take journalists out in the street and light them on fire. He's not joking, by the way. He's not like, he's not being figurative. He is deadly serious. He says we're going to make 1968 look like a Girl Scout, cookout, right? Is that the Democrat Party that you remember, Harlan? Is that the Democrat Party you were a part of? And by the way, why is Rachel Maddow not playing the clip of Kyle Jurek? Why are the Iowa newspapers not leading with that on their front page?
No, they're writing about it. They're minimizing it. But anytime it's a conservative, he's the most important person here. Yeah. Like look at how Lev
Parnas was like, former senior advisor to the president as far as these guys are concerned, right? But this actual senior person in Iowa, the state that Bernie is going to win, Bernie is a serious candidate for president. He's not Ron Paul in this thing, right? He's a very serious candidate up there on that stage, and they're not making anything out of this.
Has Jurek been fired?
I don't think so.
No.
He's been promoted. Yeah. He's head of gulags now.
Oh my God.
Head of the re-education program. But he said that. He said he admitted Bernie's free education policy is because we want more people getting government educations to teach people how to stop being Nazis, right? And he doesn't mean actual Nazis. He means like us, right? Yeah. The Nazis with the silk scarves.
Right? Yeah. No, this Democratic Party is different. And this is why 1.5 million...
Would you ever go back?
No. This is why 1.5 million Obama voters switched and voted for Trump in 2016. And I think that number is
there any Democrat up there on that stage that would make you go back?
No.
Is there any that exists in the Democrat? Would Tulsi Gabbard make you go back?
No, I wouldn't go back for Tulsi, but I think Tulsi...
You think Tulsi could come over?
Yeah, I do. I do.
That's what I've been told.
Well, she should.
Yeah. Tulsi, if you're listening, she's listening, believe
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Okay, I want to get back a little bit to the debate from last night. I want to play you guys this clip of, again, another clip from Van Jones. Somebody was missing for Van Jones last night. Let's hear.
We are back here in Des Moines, Iowa, talking about the debate that was. Van, was it different than you? It was much different than you expected. Than a lot of us.
I have to just say, I came away feeling worried for the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like tonight was a night that they were going to all put the fireworks out there. You're going to see the best of the best. And it just felt like a big bowl of cold oatmeal. And I got to say this, I missed Andrew Yang tonight. I miss Cory Booker.
All right, who wins the drink?
And I miss Cory Booker. And I miss Kamala Harris, and I miss Castro. I miss some of those voices and some of those issues of immigration and criminal justice.
Was Van Jones saying #Dem debate so white? Is that what he was just saying? He just name dropped a bunch of ethnic minority candidates, right? He said that's what was missing up there on stage. Hey, there's something to be said for the fact that the Democrats are always chirping up about minority inclusion. They didn't have a single one up there last night. The last Republican debate, you had a Hispanic American, you had an orange man, you had all the colors of the rainbow.
You had an African American and you had 2 Latinos at the January 2016 Republican debate.
Yeah, and these guys,
0 African Americans, 0 Latinos.
But did you miss Andrew Yang last night?
At least, he's talking about some long-term issues that we're going to have to face with automation, and so at least his solutions are wrong, I think, but at least he's provocative and he's forward-thinking.
Something a bit interesting, isn't it?
He's interesting, yes.
Yang gang.
Are you Yang gang?
No,
Okay.
I just like it. I just like it. The ring.
Do you have one of the math lapel pins?
Oh, they have like the equal sign.
No, it just says math.
Oh,
what is it? Make America think harder. Thank you.
Wait, is it
Bish.
think harder?
Yeah, make America think harder. Math.
I love it.
Andrew Yang. I feel sorry for people like Van Jones, and I said that at the top of the program. These people. He says like a bowl of cold oatmeal, right? I'm like, no, that's bad for oatmeal, right? Like I feel sorry for oatmeal when you say it. At least oatmeal is nourishing, right? You get something out of it. These guys have pushed the progressive mantra over and over and over again, and now they're beginning to realize, Van Jones, all this commentator class, they've pushed the Democrat Party left and left and left. Now they're beginning to realize what it leads to. It leads to a dull as dishwater debate. It leads to untalented candidates. It leads to people having debates about, you said this in 2018. No, I didn't. Oh, well, I beat this Republican 30 years ago. Okay, boomer, all this stuff. It was horrifying. It was terrifying. There is no, look, the United States, according to the Democrats nowadays, is a republic, right? But it's a republic with a democratic way of electing people. You have such a poor opposition right now. It's just like what's happening in the United Kingdom. Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party really was the official opposition last time, and people were surprised that Boris Johnson won a big blowout election. They were celebrating about that. Listen, it would have been really, really disastrous if you couldn't. Let's talk in the last 2 minutes about this. 2020 predictions. Who does this Democrat Party pick as its nominee? Question for both of you. Is it going to be any of those people on stage last night? Is it going to be Mayor Bloomberg, who's pumping $1 billion into this campaign of his own money? Is Hillary Clinton going to come through at a contested convention and say, hey, you guys couldn't decide it amongst yourselves. I'm the nominee now. And does anybody up there, Van Jones said no Democrat up there could beat President Trump. Do you agree with him, or can somebody come through? Terry first, then Harlan.
I think it's still up in the air. I would put my money on it being Biden, just because you've had a few candidates drop out in the past several days, and the big question mark is, where do those supporters go? Where do Cory Booker's 3 supporters in the Democratic Party go? Do they go to Bernie, or do they go to Biden? I don't know,
okay.
But I could
think?
see it. I could definitely see. Right now, if I had to put money on it, I would say Bernie's going to be the nominee, and he'll choose a Kamala Harris type to be his vice.
It's interesting in both parties. It's typically the candidate that comes up second that wins the nomination the next go around. It was Hillary Clinton that stepped up in 2016 and got the nomination. I think Bernie Sanders is probably the one to beat. He's polling extremely well in Iowa. He's polling very well in Nevada. He's polling well in South Carolina. He's the guy to beat, and he's got ideas so good in a Democratic Party context that you have Elizabeth Warren plagiarizing them.
Wow, there's 2 Bernie bros in studio here right now. Hashtag Bernie Bros. I'm still thinking that Bloomberg going to pull this through, and the reason I do is because Nancy Pelosi has delayed this impeachment process intentionally to keep Bernie out off the campaign trail. He's going to have to be in the Senate. The campaign's not going to be as feverish without him at the helm. He can send AOC out there for him and things like that, but I think he loses some momentum. Bloomberg comes in. He's rising as he's spending, right? And we have a new video dropping on the War Room social media tomorrow about all of that. So make sure you keep your eyes tuned. Thank you, gentlemen. War Room Impeachment, episode 115. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Stephen K. Bannon, Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller for another episode of War Room Impeachment.